Friday, the residential tenancies branch ruled the tenants of 285 College Avenue could return.
So you have no dishes, you have no towels, you have no bed to sleep, you have an empty apartment.
Apart from his bike and guitar, Marion Willis with St. Boniface StreetLink says his belongings and brand new furniture were thrown out.
It's really disheartening to actually be with clients as they walk into their apartments. As you can see now, walls and things have been ripped apart. I'm not sure that this building is even safe at this point for people to live in.
After Willis left the building, Winnipeg police gave her a $672 ticket for trespassing. Willis says StreetLinks has reached out to the building owner's lawyer.
And his lawyer has responded by saying that St. Boniface StreetLinks is now barred. All of us are barred from that building.
Devaney Hudson and Dwayne Sumner are also picking up their keys, but they don't plan on staying long.
Overwhelmed. I don't know. We lost a lot of stuff, especially our baby stuff, which is memories, you know. I can never get back.
The province says the building's owner is facing 32 orders issued by the residential tenancies branch. CBC did not reach the owner through his lawyer. A provincial spokesperson says the branch is still investigating what happened. They say more charges could be coming, along with fines and prosecution. Kyle Lemke is counting on that.
If it's not criminal to walk into someone's house and say, you know, get out on the weekend, all your stuff is mine, basically, if it's not criminal, then it has to affect his pocketbook in a very, very hurtful way.
Take care, Kyle.
Thank you.
Lemke says he isn't moving back into his old suite. He's hoping to turn a page with a new place by next week. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A 32-year-old Winnipeg woman has died after being hit by a car overnight. Winnipeg police were called to Notre Dame and McPhillips just after midnight. First responders rushed her to hospital, but she didn't survive. Police say the driver of the car stayed at the scene of the crash and spoke with officers. One person is in critical condition after a fire broke out in a two-story house in the North End. It happened just after 3 this morning in the 300 block of Alfred Avenue. When crews arrived, they were told someone might be trapped inside. The person was found and rushed to hospital. Firefighters also found 2 cats and a dog who died in the blaze. 4 kittens were safely removed. A 14-year-old boy has been arrested and is facing a slew of charges after police say he broke into the outlet mall around midnight Saturday. Police say the suspect entered the mall by breaking a glass panel on the entry door. Officers say he then broke into 2 retail stores before breaking another pane of glass on a door glass to escape. He was arrested 2 hours later near Cordon Avenue and Carpathia Road. Police say the teen caused more than $22,000 in damages. He's linked to 3 other robberies and a break and enter at a religious center, all since the beginning of June. First Nation communities continue to sound the alarm. The latest declaring a state of emergency due to a nursing shortage. Nisichawayasik Cree Nation says its nursing station has been forced to scale back their hours since September of last year, and they're calling on the federal government to provide better funding. CBC's Mike Arsenault has the story.
Since late last year, Nisichawayasik Cree Nation's shortage of nurses has forced the community's nursing stations to close except for in emergencies. Chief Angela Lavasseur says her community has a right to health care, and the current quality of care is unacceptable.
That would never happen in the city of Winnipeg. You would never, ever go to a walk-in clinic open to emergencies only. Can you imagine the outrage? People would lose their minds.
Nisichawayasik is located 8 hours north of Winnipeg with a population of 3,500. People turned away from the nursing station are forced to seek medical attention in Thompson, which is an hour away.
In First Nations communities, the majority of our people live in abject poverty. They do not have access to transportation. They do not have the means to go to Thompson.
Jesse Horodecki, the executive director of the community's personal care home, says it's difficult to keep nurses at the station. It competes with private agency nurses who are paid more.
Since we can't compete with that,
we can't have permanent staff. We lose our permanent staff to, they run to agency all the time, and really, why wouldn't you?
Nisitchawayasik isn't the only First Nation community struggling to retain nurses. In March, Pimachikamak declared a state of emergency when their nursing station could only staff 4 of the 13 nurses.
Without your health, what do you have? First Nations or not, without your health, you have nothing.
The Director of Health for the region says she's been submitting proposals for additional nurses every year since 2015 and has only received funding for 1 additional nurse in the area. Every other proposal was denied. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
CBC News reached out to Indigenous Services Canada for a comment, but has yet to receive a reply. Serial killer Jeremy Skitzki knew what he was doing was wrong. That's according to a written decision by the judge who convicted him in the murders of 4 vulnerable Indigenous women. Skitzki was found guilty in the killings of Morgan Harris, Mercedes Myron, Rebecca Contois, and a yet unidentified woman given the name Mushkade Bishake Ikwe Iban. In the nearly 200-page decision, Chief Justice Glenn Joyal outlines in detail why he found him guilty. Messages and letters Skitzki sent after the killings, plus his confession, showed he knew what he did was wrong and that he could be facing several life sentences. He also says it suggested a, quote, calculated opportunism and potential for manipulation. Joyal says he acted out of self-interest and self-protection when disposing of the bodies and the planning that went into concealing the killings. The judge says it was important to give his reasons for decision in detail because of the impact this case has had. Skitzki will be sentenced at a later date. More than $12 million is being earmarked by the provincial and federal government to help end gender-based violence. The money will help support 19 initiatives and programs province-wide. Nahani Fontaine is Manitoba's minister responsible for women and gender equity. She says a significant number of programs getting funding entail working with men.
It is male violence when we talk about gender-based violence that put women, girls, and gender diverse folk at risk. And so we need to be tackling that.
The money is part of the 10-year National Action Plan to end gender-based violence. A large Winnipeg-based manufacturing company has apologized for not addressing a sexist atmosphere in the workplace and the effects it had on female employees. The apology came from Price Industries as part of the company's offer to settle a complaint before the Manitoba Human Rights Commission. Veerlyn Kubanek reports.
As a large multinational manufacturing company based in Winnipeg, Price Industries makes products such as air purification equipment. Gwen Jakes worked in sales at Price Industries for about 8 years until she was dismissed in 2015.
It was devastating.
She maintains she had done nothing wrong.
It was devastating because I lost my way to earn an income and to, like, I was the only benefits that my family had. My husband is self-employed. He had no benefits.
Jakes filed a complaint to the Manitoba Human Rights Commission in 2015 after her dismissal. Her complaint alleges she was discriminated against on the basis of her sex, her age at the time, which was 53, and that she was subjected to harassment. The company denies the allegations, but Price Industries made a settlement offer, which went to a public hearing of the Human Rights Commission in April. Now the adjudicator has determined the settlement is reasonable, and Price Industries is required to pay compensation to Jakes. $25,000 for injury to her dignity, feelings, or self-respect, and compensation for financial loss in the amount of $150,000 minus deductions for things like income tax, CPP, and employment insurance. Price Industries declined an interview, but in a statement to CBC News, a company vice president said, E.H. Price, a division of Price Industries Limited, deny the allegations made by the complainant and made a reasonable offer simply to conclude the matter. The adjudicator's decision says the company has apologized for not thoroughly recognizing and addressing the sexist atmosphere in the workplace and not remediating the effects it had on female employees. The decision says Price Industries has implemented measures such as annual employee training on respect in the workplace and requiring employees to acknowledge a violence and harassment policy.
I am very grateful to the people who came forward during the investigation, and they put their own jobs on the line for doing that. And I'm very grateful for them. I'm grateful for the support that my family has given me.
Jakes was given 30 days to decide whether she'll accept the settlement offer. She is critical of the Manitoba Human Rights Commission over how long it took to get to this point.
The timing, like 9 years, is way too long for anybody to have to go through this.
After Jakes filed her complaint to the Commission, 2 years went by before an investigator was even assigned. A Commission spokesperson says the organization has a strategy to eliminate wait times by the end of 2025. Vera Lynn Kubanek, CBC News, Winnipeg.
If you have a tip for our I-Team, you can call our confidential tip line at 204-788-3744 or email iteam@cbc.ca. American officials are loosening proposed new rules for allowing dogs into the United States. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control had announced that new rules designed to keep rabies out of the country would take effect August 1st. The original changes would have required dog owners to provide onerous paperwork, including proof of vaccination signed by a vet. Dogs would also have to be microchipped. Now, the CDC says as long as a dog has been in a low or rabies-free country for the past 6 months, it can cross into the U.S. with a simple import form. That can be filled out online on the day of travel. The requirement for a microchip does remain in place, and all dogs entering the U.S. must be more than 6 months of age. The province says 2 positive samples of zebra mussels have been found at St. Malo. The discovery was part of an ongoing monitoring for the invasive species. It has prompted the province to launch a rapid response plan to try and prevent their spread even further. The St. Malo Reservoir is already not open for use by gas-powered motorized watercraft, but the province is urging those with canoes, kayaks, and other watercraft to be vigilant and clean their equipment before and after they're used in the water. It was a hot weekend here in Winnipeg, and there is much more of that heat to come. Time now for a check on weather with Ethan Williams.
Well, thanks, Brittany. And of course, we are starting to see a bit of that smoke from forest fires to the west of us in Saskatchewan, Alberta, and BC starting to move in. And I'm showing you the visible satellite here that shows a whole lot of the smoke. You see kind of some cloud cover in the lighter shades of white there, but all this gray here, including that moving into portions of Manitoba, is the smoke. And we don't have air quality advisories out just yet in our province, but you can see they are well in place through Saskatchewan and Alberta and BC, and they're just starting to kind of get up along the Manitoba border here. So within the next couple of days, we could start to see that move in our direction. And that's because the smoke, after a bit of a reprieve overnight and into tomorrow, is going to start moving back into our neck of the woods as we get into Wednesday, especially for northern parts of the province and through Thompson and the Churchill region. We could start to see that begin to move in, and then through south and central Manitoba likely as we get a little bit later into the week. Nonetheless, the smoke likely going to be hanging around at times as those fires continue to burn. Elsewhere in the skies, we do have a bit of some activity just to the east and south of Winnipeg, some stronger storms through North Dakota and some pop-up showers and thunderstorms to the east of us this afternoon. It's because of this disturbance to our south, which is going to move stateside. Could still bring some lingering showers and thunderstorms tomorrow morning for the commute in the Winnipeg area, but then high pressure is going to keep things mostly clear as we go through the next couple of days here. But along with that smoke moving our way, you saw those heat warnings out in Alberta, and that big ridge with that warm air going to start to move our way as well and begin to bump up our temperatures. But for tonight, we will still see some cloud cover and the possibility of some showers and storms throughout much of southern Manitoba, including in Winnipeg. But for the north, we're looking for partly to mostly clear skies, and that'll be the case tomorrow as well, as temperatures by the afternoon get into those low to mid 20s. Quite a nice seasonal day for the north tomorrow. tomorrow. And then in southern Manitoba, including for Winnipeg and the Red River Valley, we're looking for some morning showers before clearing out and getting some temperatures again kind of into those mid-20s is probably what we're expecting. Morning shower in Winnipeg, and then getting into the noon hour, things should be calming down a little bit. May still see a little bit of some lingering haze tomorrow morning as well, but that should be clearing out into the afternoon. Noontime temperature of around 20 degrees, and then 23 is about the best we'll do. But with that humidity that we've been seeing, probably feeling at times a little bit closer to 30 degrees, but nonetheless under a mix of sun and cloud. A look at your full 7-day forecast, Brittany, is coming up.
All right, thanks, Ethan. An invasive fruit fly is festering in Manitoba crops. Coming up after the break, we'll hear from a farmer in Carman whose cherry and raspberry orchards have been hit with the pest and what it means for local fruit crops this year. Stay with us. Tiny flies are causing some big problems for farmers. A plague of fruit flies is cropping up and being found in everything from strawberries to Saskatoons and sour cherries as they're being harvested. Now it's hitting raspberries. CBC's Zubina Ahmed has the story.
An invasive fruit fly is growing on these cherries.
Can you see that? That tiny little thing is what does all this damage.
Edith Smith and her husband Wayne own Prairie Adventure Farms in Carmen. She says 2/3 of the orchard has been damaged by these flies.
This year was an invasion, if you want to call it that, of spotted-winged Drosera. They came originally from California, and they've worked their way north over the years.
Smith says fruit flies usually lay egg on overripe and rotting fruit. The invasive is getting to the fruit earlier.
So they've laid an egg in there.
Fruit crop specialist for Manitoba Agriculture, Anthony Mintenko, says the mild winter, cooler spring and rains are to blame.
Most of May, June into July, the conditions have been perfect for spotted wing to increase its population numbers.
Smith says the insecticide sprays didn't work because of the weather too.
This year we couldn't do that, so they wound up coming in en masse, and there is a lot of them out there.
Smith says the flies are hurting her business and asking people to come and pick what is ripe over the next 4 days. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Carmen.
A derelict, long-vacant South Osborne building has a new owner and a new purpose. Fisher River Cree Nation has purchased the Rubin Block. Plans are to turn it into 12 to 14 housing units. The 3-story brick block at the corner of Morley and Osborne was built in 1914. The chief says remediation will take some time, but they're getting help from a number of groups, including the University of Winnipeg. He says the building will be operational in spring of 2025. A 22-year-old whose life was cut short was honored over the weekend. Mohammed Yusuf Abdullahi was shot and killed in the parking lot of a South Winnipeg soccer complex last week. Police believe the shooting was targeted and say it had nothing to do with the tournament. On Saturday, people returned to the complex to remember the young player.
Let us honor him by continuing to play the game of football, the game that he loved with so much passion, with so much joy that he brought to every game.
We met in soccer field like usual. Here we are at soccer field remembering him. He joined our team 2 years ago, and he's one good player and a good friend, happy guy. He's keep on saying he is, but I think I should say he was.
When a tragedy like that happened, one of the most important things that we as a human being with our emotions is what we turn into anger, frustration, resentment, and all of that. But we cannot move forward like that as people. We must find peace, we must find that unity, and the youth still want this to continue, as we had a lot of community leaders, government officials, they all are endorsing that this must continue. This is a program, it's a competition that brings all communities together, that create that safe space where youth can belong, can be a part of a greater community.
Well, that heat didn't stop dozens of Winnipeggers from working out at True North Square yesterday. The second annual Health and Wellness event was hosted by Peg City Steppers. The event, which was free to the public, featured workouts such as Zumba, yoga, and Afro aerobics. Organizers say the event aims to promote not just physical, but mental well-being as well. And they hope to hold the event again next year. Well, speaking of hot weather, your 7-day forecast is still ahead. Plus, I'll have your daily lift. Stay with us.
Well, after the possibility of some morning thunderstorms, we get some clearing tomorrow afternoon, a little bit below seasonal, but not for long. Temperature's really going to take off as we get through the work week here. By Friday, we're nearing 30 degrees. The thunderstorm risk returns for the weekend and then clearing out as we head into the beginning of next week. But likely humidex values stretching into the 30s, overnight lows near 20 degrees, and maybe some heat warnings returning along with that smoke in the coming days, Brittany.
All right, thanks, Ethan. Well, sometimes the next best thing to tasting a baguette in Paris is smelling the famed French staple.
If you rub the surface air, it smells the bread.
This is a recently unveiled commemorative scratch and sniff postage stamp. It's designed to evoke the feeling of walking into a French patisserie, but the real-world smell tests for the stamps have not been consistent. Some have described getting hints of vanilla and even flan custard, but not quite the baguette itself. And others say they only smell paper. Olympic visitors to Paris can buy the stamps for just under $3. That's it for us here. I will be back here tomorrow night. Have a wonderful evening.